In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create these nice circles with these arrows that eventually should indicate to drag a bar up or down. So to do this, the first thing what we need to do here is create some dots. We're going to put those dots in there, and then this will probably be a multi-video series because we have to do a lot of things. Let's start to work on the dots first. So to do the dots, I need some space here between, and I'm going to remove the tooltip just for now because it's just very distracting. So I'm going to say comma plugins, and then we're going to say yeah, tooltip. I'll pinpoint the tooltip and then say enabled equals false. Then what I want to do here, I want to have the layout, not the layout. I would have to have here on the scale additional space, basically the space between the two here. To do that, I go here in the Y scale, and we can say here, comma, we put in grace, so we get some space between there, and maybe we're going to say here, let's say 3 ticks max, or minimum. Save, refresh, there we are, so we get enough space here, so we're going to make these nice circles. Alright, so now, once we have this, I want to go here, from the options we measured here, and we're going to create a custom plugin. So say plugins, and don't get confused with plugins here. These are plugins built in chart.js, with the tool such as tooltip and legend, and this one here is now we're going to create and load the customized plugin. So let's start to work on this. So for now, I'm going to say this will be our circle arrow. I'm going to copy this. Then I'm going to say here constant circle arrow ID equals the circle arrow, and then we say here after data sets draw, because I want to make sure it will draw after the bar has been drawn, so it's on top, overlapping on top of the bar. So I say chart, arcs, and plugin options, and arcs is missing an A. There we are. So once we did this, I'm going to say a constant. We're going to do an object destructuring for the chart object, ctx, comma, then we're going to say here the data. Once we did this, what I want to do now is start to work on drawing the item. I'm going to say ctx.save to save all variables above, and then let's start to work on a few things. The first thing what I want to do is I want to get the coordinates of this bar position. Basically, I want the top coordinate and the center of this. Luckily, these things are quite easy to get if I get or have access to the built-in functionalities. So I'm going to show you how you can find them. Say chart get data set meta index 0, and then we can say dot data, and if I save this, we'll get here this is a built-in functionality from chart.js. If I save and refresh, you can see here we're getting all the bar elements, and you can see here the coordinates, the x and y coordinates. This will basically say the x is here this position and the y is the top position, and we even have some additional information for every bar. There is one, and of course you can see here what we have here is the width of the bar. That's nice because we can control the width of the circle. So let's start to work on this. So the first thing what I want to do then is I want to just grab all of this. I'm going to do a for each loop because I want to loop through all of these items. So I say here dot for each. Then I'm going to say here for every data point, and I'm just going to give it an index, function arrow expression, and then we're going to say here the following. It's a constant, and then what we want to get, or what I want to get first is the x position of every data point. So it's a x dot position equals the data point dot x. That's number one, and then for the y, you can guess the same. You can say here, make sure we have this properly here, y, and then y that. So once we have this, the next thing what I want to do is I want to get the width of the bar because I need to define how big the circle is. Let's see if a full circle is nice or maybe even smaller. Let's explore that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say a constant the width equals, and I'm going to say here the data point dot width. And then probably I have to divide this by 2. I will explain to you later on why this is important. So once I have this, I can start to draw our arc or our dot. So I'm going to say here ctx.begin path. So we're going to create a new shape that is independent of anything else. Next thing what I want to do is I want to say ctx.fill style. Let's give this black for now. That's like a black color for the shape. And now we're going to draw our circle, which is basically our arc. So I say ctx.arc. And then what I need is the following. I need the x position, the y position, the radius. And then we're going to get here the, the angle start. And then the angle end. And then finally we have here counterclockwise, yes or no. By default, should be false. Most of the time, 99% of the time, it is false. Alright, so for the angle, what I want to do here is I want to simplify the angle because now this is a math.pi. Basically 2 pi is a full circle, but let's say I want to use 0 degrees and 360. That's a more easier way for that, so I'm going to create here first something that we're going to use. So I'm going to say your constant angle equals math.pi divided by 180 degrees. We know that 1 pi is a half circle, 2 pi is a full circle. So 180 degrees divided by 180, basically we get the basics. And then what I want to do is I want to make a full circle, say 0, we start at 0, and we go here 360 of the angle. This multiplied by 360, and there we are. You could also multiply the angle by 0, but that is equal to 0, so no need to do that. This is just easier. The radius is basically the width, but the width we had to divide by 2 or else the circle will be larger, and I'm going to show you later on. So then what I want to do is I want to get this x position and this y position here, save that, refresh, and of course it doesn't work yet. Why? We need to make sure we have the command to draw. So let's say ctx.fill, save, there we are. So as you can see here, this is, to be honest, quite nice, but maybe too big, not necessarily like this. So let's start to fine tune this. I would like that more smaller. And this is the reason why if you do it like this, you get a larger shape. So what I'm going to do is just divide it by 4 to get a nice smaller item. Next, what I want to do is basically arrow up and down so that later on we're going to create our movement, or at least that's the event that we have to build on later on. So what I'm going to do here now is I want to make sure we have an up and down arrow function. So to do this we have to draw these, and to draw that we need to understand how we can draw it on top here. And well, what we can do here is the following. We're just going to say here I'm going to eventually have a function where we can say arrow, and then the arrow will trigger up and down. So let's start to work on that by creating the function for the arrow, so we can test that afterwards. So we're going to say here arrow, and this arrow here will have a few items. So let's see what we're going to do. What I want to do is I want to basically draw an arrow or a triangle pointing up and a triangle pointing down in our circle. So to do that, what I need is, first of all, I need to indicate that we have a new shape. So I begin path. There we are. Then what I want to do is I want to make it white. So I'm just going to say here the fill style will be white. And I'm going to say fill style, but we're going to work with lines that we're going to fill up the full triangle with a background color, basically, which is white. Then what I want to do here is start to draw the item. I'm going to say ctx.move to. And this here allows us to give the starting coordinate. So the starting coordinate here, we have to a bit consider a few things. We have to go here up, down, like that. Or maybe for now, what I realize is probably we have all of these numbers. We have all of these coordinates here. We need to move them up. So later on, what we will do here is use these as what we call a, if I'm not mistaken here, this is the argument and this is the parameter. So here we have here the parameter, I'm not sure how you spell that, but here are the arguments. The arguments are basically the values and the parameter are the reference to that value. So what we're going to do here is basically we're going to say here x position and then y position and maybe even color. We can use that for now. And then here, sorry, this color should be of course white then in this case. This is the real value. That's a string value in this case. But here up, we will say here x, y, color. Like that. And then what I want to do now is start to figure out our starting point here at the very Yes, left side, we're going to the right, and then we're going up, and then down. So to do that, we have the move tool, we need the X and Y, and what I can do here is we have the X and Y coordinates, which are basically these positions here, and what I want to do then is, I want to go, let's say 5 pixels, because this here is the exact center here. I want to go 5 pixels to the left, so what I'm going to do here, I will say here -5. For the Y, I would like to maybe go a bit up, because we're going to up, if not we are in the center, so we're going to move it up. So let's say here, for this, I'm just going to say here minus, maybe 5 or 10 pixels, let's leave it like that. I'm going to keep it like that. Then, we're going to continue on, we're going to say line 2. So then we have the line 2, and then here what we want to do is basically we want to have a straight line going from this point all the way to the right side. So from here we go to the right side. So what I'm going to do is just going to grab this, put it in here, but instead of -5, we're going to say here +5. Once we did that, I want to have another line, because now we're going from left to right, then I'm going up. But maybe to just give you a visual, I'm going to say the following. I'm going to say ctx dot, maybe say stroke for now, to draw that line, and then I will say here, let's make this stroke style, so we draw the line, so you can see a visual, and I guess we can just put this color here. Alright, save this, refresh, there we are, that works. So what I want to do next is just have another line, and pushing it up, but in the center afterwards. So luckily we know this. That's basically the X. Here, I'm going to remove that, because we know this is the center. And then for the Y, we want to go up. So we can say here maybe -10. Let's see if that is big enough. There we are. Then what I want to do, I want to close this. Luckily we can do that as well by saying, copy this, put it in here, but then instead of begin path, we're going to say close path. Save, refresh, there we are, that looks beautiful. So once we got that, I'm going to convert it into a fill style, hide the stroke style, and say this will be a fill, so we have a background color white. There we are. So now we have number 1, and they're all nicely connected. If I refresh it, it moves nicely. Let's make one for the lower end. So for that, I'm just going to do some creative work on this here, because I don't believe we need to have another function for arrow down. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it very simple. We can just say here, comma, and I'm going to say here up. Yes, and then I make another one, comma, and we're going to say here down. And what I want to do here is like position. And what I will do here is basically make an if statement. If this has a certain position, go up, else go down. If I'm not mistaken, this here will define the position, or these here. So what I can do here is, well, let's see, we're going to say here, if position equals strict, then we're going to say here up will be like this. We're going to say this one probably will be this is our starting point, and I think here later on maybe we have to play around with these. And then else, if that is not the case, it will be a different position. So that is a bit tricky what we're going to do, so we need to have a proper visual. What I know is if I go there, it still looks all same. What happens if I make this down? We're going to say if it's down, what we do know is we need to go downwards. For this here, this will be same, but the Y will be a plus. So let's do that, save, refresh. Alright, as you can see here, it starts to do a bit weird because it doesn't understand where is the position. So what I want to do with these here, this can be probably a different positioning. So what I'm going to do here is probably another value. And hold on, what I can do is I'll just show you what I would like to do, and then later on we're going to fine tune that. I think that's probably the right way for now. Alright, so this is basically what I want to do here. We have here this, let's save that. Right now this needs to have just a proper arrow. So to do that, what I need to do here, this is this and this is consistent. This one plus should be here as well, plus. That should be plus. And then this here should be a plus as well, if I'm not mistaken. Save, refresh. There we are. That's what I would like. So what I can do here is, can we change this? Because what are the differences here? These are consistent. These are slightly different. So what I want to do here, I'm going to say x div, and then y div as well. I think those extras, and then what the y div will be either plus or negative. So what I can say here, let's copy these x and y div. Let's copy this, put it in here, put it in here. Then the y div will be, if we're going pointing down, I need to have plus 10. So I'm going to say here, this will be 10. If I'm up, I'm going to do negative 10. And the reason I say negative 10 here is what I'm going to change here. I'll just make this plus. Plus a negative 10 equals negative 10. And plus 10 is positive, so that will be fine. If I save this, let's see if we get a difference. Oh, hold on. This x div needs to be a number. Let's make this 5 because we're not using this yet. We didn't apply that here anywhere. Save, refresh, there we are. That looks all fine. But then what I want to do is basically these values need to be adjusted. And let's see what we can do here then. If we do that, we have this y div or x div. Well, it's not really an x div, I realize. This should be a y div as well. Let's give this a proper position. Hold on. Well, I will just give it a y div number 2, so don't get confused with this. These are just the numbers, but here this is negative and this one is positive. So that will mean that I'll just say here negative 5, positive 5, but here I'll always say plus, plus, and these are all consistent. Put it in there, 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 there. Alright, so once we have all of this, if I save this, refresh, that looks fine. Can I now remove these lines here, or basically this and this are identical? So I'm going to cut this, put it in there. Then I'm going to check here. This one should be fine, and then this one is the only difference is our starting point. Let's save that. Refresh. Beautiful. So now we have everything in one single function that makes everything easier. And all what we can do here is up and down. Well, basically it already has up and down. That looks all beautiful. Now we have this done. So next video I'm going to focus on the dragging of this. That one is of course a bit more complicated.